pleasure to have a special guest today, Jose Garcia, CEO of SilverX Mining. Jose, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about SilverX, about what you guys are doing.
Hi, Jorge. Thank you for having us today. My name is Jose Garcia. I'm the CEO and founder of SilverX Mining Corp. We are a Peruvian silver producing company listed on the TSXV. Actually, the story of SilverX is rather interesting. We are, as I said, we are producing silver, gold, lead, and zinc in central Peru. It's a company we built over the last 8 years, from a very small, let's say, explorer or developer to actually a full-fledged production company today, and we are listed on the TSX Ventures, and actually now enjoying better times with good silver prices and the overall, good environment for metals.
It's a really pleasure to have you here with us. On your website, it says SilverX has a mission, a vision to be the premier silver company that provides outstanding value to its stakeholders. Tell me a little about your background. Is there an event or a moment that led you to transition from a mining professional to building SilverX?
That's an interesting question, but yes, first, back to the purpose of SilverX. I think what the competitive edge that SilverX is developed here in Peru over the last few years is that we are able to look at these historic mining districts, because all these districts, like the one is behind my back, have been known for centuries. But reality is that our competitive advantage is to look at this with a different view, with a very aggressive exploration strategy. We're able to build resources rapidly. We are able to actually advance projects rapidly and to build production rapidly on a fast track. That's a very particular skill. I think there is many companies in Peru that are able to do that. There is many other companies around LATAM that could do that. But I believe we are gonna keep on occupying that niche in this mining market. And our idea is to become that mid-tier mining company or premier silver company by replicating these over time. So we've done it once here in Huachocolpa, Huancavelica, but we are looking at other opportunities to replicate our experience and to grow a really solid silver company. Now, to your question on why a person like me and some partners got into building something like SilverX, it's rather interesting. I am a Spanish mining engineer. Coincidentally, I started my career in Peru back in 2003, when I was 21 years of age. I'm 44. And it was a great experience. I spent years in Peru, I spent years in Chile, I spent many years in Australia, Europe. And at some point, when I was working at an international organization called the World Economic Forum, I came to the conclusion after all of those years of very diverse experience, but I came to the conclusion that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, because I think I was starting to combine the technical knowledge, the financial knowledge, the management or managerial knowledge, but more importantly, I think I got that spark of finding opportunities, building teams, and all these adventures, initiatives that you need to take when you are an entrepreneur. I was lucky enough to find also the right people or the right partners to embark on that mission. And Peru was a country where I was very familiar with. I knew the country, I knew the companies, I knew the projects, the geology. I've been involved in this country for 25 years, 23 years. And that's it. We came to Peru, we wanted to build a mining company, and we found our jackpot. And that's the Nueva Recuperada project in Huancavelica.
The Nueva Recuperada project, it's called.
Nueva Recuperada. There used to be a mine and a mill, used to be called Recuperada. We call it Nueva Recuperada, like new. Recuperada is Recuperada 2.0. It's the same mill, like the one you see on the picture, but reality is that it's a brand new mine. It's new mines, it's new resources that we explored and discovered, and a new mine that we built.
So you came on with a very specialized team, and you were able to pool all of the experience that you had together. There's a lot of expert knowledge, industry leaders that came together to make this a reality, and now you said that you want to do aggressive, like fast expansion. How are we looking to expand like quickly and aggressively while still maintaining standards of sustainability?
When we say aggressively or rapidly, it doesn't have anything to do with respect for the environment or communities. We're talking more about the decision making. Okay.
Correct.
Occasionally, as you know, mining is an industry with very long lead times, in which, from the discovery of a project towards, the construction and the operation could last for 10 up to 20 years, we've seen recently. We are taking a more conventional approach, which is we like discover resources and move that to a mine plan and to construction, etc., rather quickly. That's what I meant with aggressive. In terms of sustainability, I think this medium-sized mining industry, particularly in countries like Peru, in this Andean region, provide or bring a lot of opportunities for sustainable development, right? We typically live in underdeveloped economies, in very underdeveloped areas in particular, where there is lack of infrastructure, there is lack of health, lack of education, or there is a very modest education system. And occasionally companies can act as enablers for development. That's our case. Despite our modest size, we are able to bring, very fast economic growth into those little villages. People are coming back. 20 years ago, when most mining activity in that part of the world, that part of Peru, shut down, people migrated to the major cities. Now they're coming back. The children are coming back after studying in the capital city. Now there is activities, there is hospitality, there is civil works, there is contractors, there is services, and that's the backbone to economic development.
Social work and where they feel identified. And you built this mine in Huancavelica at extreme altitudes with limited infrastructure. Well, before I dive into the question, how high is the altitude at Huancavelica?
Our mill is at 4,300 meters altitude, and the mine is almost 4,800. So for those in North America, I think that'll be around 15,000 feet.
Yeah.
16,000 feet. It's pretty high, is it?
It's pretty high and limited infrastructure. You mentioned that the district, the province, the region is undergoing a fundamental transformation. So my question is, how do you do it? How does one use the correct people and the correct resources to build successful mining assets?
Well, that's a very interesting question because there is no silver bullet for this, I mean, of course, in any mining company, like any other industry, everything goes back to people, comes down to people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever business you are starting, you want to be surrounded by smart people. If smarter than you, that's even better.
Oh, yeah.
Mining is not easy in the sense that finding people is not that easy. It's an industry that is not that popular among the youth. So finding really young, energetic mining professionals is not that easy. But we are in Peru, luckily, and this is a mining country. So I think that's item number one. And item number two is obviously the vision of the company, because you can get really smart people, right, all together, but if they don't have a shared vision on how to do things can get complicated or things might not get done. And I think as long as you create that fellowship and that vision that everyone shares, that, I think that makes your life easier as a company builder.
Is vision able to be taught to like the people that you're managing?
I don't think so. I don't think you teach a vision.
Yeah, right.
I think a vision gets shared, a vision gets reviewed, understood, modified or amended, and eventually believed. I think that's fundamental in the creation of a company.
Absolutely. Yeah, very true. And speaking of creation of a company, I want to get a little bit into your business growth. You mentioned that you were at 1/3 of your expected market cap where you were supposed to be. What is SilverX's strategy to overcome this challenge? Through more investment, productivity, or is this just a time issue?
Well, it's about everything, a bit of everything. SilverX is today a $260, $270 million market cap. It's probably 4 times more than we were a year ago. Literally 4 times more. And you'll say, well, you're still unhappy. Well, I'm always happy. I'm never satisfied. I think when you look at the fair value of a company with our resources, better to say, with our growing production and with our position in Peru to achieve growth, I think we're still far for maybe just not a third, but at the very least we should be twice our market cap. Again, markets understand these things and markets will react the moment they gain confidence in companies like us. It's a mix of many things: our performance, our team, our resources, metal prices, the overall political environment, the overall markets for equities and mining equities, if you like. But I think SilverX is going to have a really successful 2026. For those who are interested in juniors, they should look at silver companies in particular. We are enjoying a very hot silver market. I think this is a market for producers. There is very few producers, actually. We can count silver producers in the Americans, and I would say there's not more than 20 or 25 that are listed in Canada. And among those, if you look for, let's say, producers on the smaller end, which are the ones that get the biggest leverage when with silver prices and growth, I think SilverX is probably one of the best investment cases you can find.
You believe we're at the inception of a big commodity super cycle with the silver. What does that mean for the country and for silver in general? And how do you identify this trend?
Well, of course, I want to believe that we are at the beginning of a super cycle. I'm 44. I've seen basically 2 cycles in mining. The one that spanned from 2008, 2012, that was relatively short, or 2014. The one that is starting now, you see base metals like copper being, reaching all-time high, silver reaching all-time high. I think the global demand for metals is growing and it's going to stay there for many, many years, hopefully decades. In the case of silver, I think silver is rather particular because silver is being perceived in history as a precious metal, which it is, obviously,
Yeah.
but as, let's say, as a currency, as a second level currency after gold. And I think it still plays a dramatic role, especially in times like today's times when the global economy is so imbalanced. You can see silver price going up. It's still far from its desired price against gold. But I think that most of the aggregated demand for silver these days is coming from the energy transition, in particular solar energy. So the biggest aggregated demand for silver comes from the consumption by solar panels. So when you look at the growth plans, just not worldwide, but in particular the Chinese government, the Chinese plans, as you know, the government makes plans for the country. It is fair to believe that there is a huge shortage of silver and there will continue to be a growing demand over the next few years. Now, it's important also to say, in all fairness, that most silver in the world gets produced as a byproduct. There is not really many deposits that are primary silver, okay? So for instance, in our case, typically in Peru, countries like Mexico, Canada, US, you produce silver, gold, lead, and zinc, with silver being perhaps the biggest contributor to your revenues. There's other countries where silver gets produced as a byproduct of copper. Some of the large copper mines in Chile, in Peru, even in Poland, producing a lot of silver. Why is that interesting? Because the silver resources or the silver reserves are not that elastic against price movements. So in other words, price could go up. There ain't going to be dozens or hundreds of silver mines coming up online. Silver producers will likely remain approximately the same ones. In other words, I think the exposure to price is outstanding. Now we're having almost $80 silver. I bet that over 2026, gonna see $120, $140 silver.
So that's something that's the market. That's something that's kind of like outside of our control, and that we're anticipating is going to happen in the industry of silver. So in order to adapt to this growing market, and you said that we're happy. satisfactory as to the business value is a different topic. So, in terms of long term, what is the desired outcome that you would like to see SilverX to become? Multiple mines capability, or it be like increased revenue or productivity?
There's a number of things that we should consider. As I said, when I explain our purpose, and I changed from that sort of vision, mission to purpose,
Yeah, it's
which
okay.
I think is fashionable, but really I think it's simpler for us to understand one single thing. But we want to become that mid-tier silver producer by replicating what we've done. Now, in this project, in the Huachocolpa project, what we need to do, and we are going to do, is to grow production by approximately 4 to 5 times over the next few years. Why is that? We've got a big resource. We're producing at a relatively small scale. We just need to make sure we can finance the growth and make sure like a really remarkable silver project at a Latin American level. Simple as that. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, uh, SilverX is actively looking for opportunities to, again, replicate it. That means we're very willing to take other projects in countries like Peru, in South America at large, why not even North America? But over the next few years, I envision at SilverX, there's going to be a multi-mine, a multi-project silver company,
Great.
likely diversified across several countries as well. Okay. I think that would be a success story, becoming really a premier company with multiple jurisdictions, multiple mines.
Is that something that's a very long-term desire, and it's great. Is there a particular timeline that you're looking, or any particular region that you're looking to expand to first, within Peru or outside the country?
Obviously, Peru is our backyard,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we want to expand in Peru definitely. But again, we're very open to other Latin American countries, whether that's Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico. We'll see as it fits.
Where the opportunity comes up and fits.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. These are great desired outcomes, and expansion is really great. Is there talk around the office here as to how potential novel processes, technologies, or artificial intelligence could come into play in a mining operation to help with expansion or its operations?
We've had a very modest, interest into AI. I'm personally very interested. We operate in very remote areas. Luckily, in Peru, there is lots of mining expertise, right? So we get professionals, we get low-skilled labor. But one of the biggest challenges that we got is productivity. So AI comes very handy because we can start applying things that are really well known by today into managing companies in remote location with a higher degree of performance. So it goes from management of HR, it goes from management of databases, production data, logistics, and reporting. But I think from a technical perspective, I'm even more interested in learning more about, for instance, health and safety applications or AI-based applications for health and safety, so we can improve the way we perform in health and safety. I think there is ample room for planning in terms of resource and mine plan applications, and definitely the biggest changes in mining will come around the technology. So we are operating underground, narrow vein mines, and I believe that over the next few years, and this is going to happen on a fast track, going to see a new breed of mining equipment, remotely operated, remotely controlled, being able to outguess decisions or make decisions, advance mines quickly, being able to operate, and that's why I said autonomous in areas with perhaps deficit of ventilation or even health conditions, and we're operating at very high altitude occasionally, not in this particular project, but there is exposure to extreme weather, remote accesses, and things like that. So I believe that particularly in Latin America, AI will be key to increase productivity in mining projects, and it might make many mining projects feasible.
We're talking about Peru, but all around the world, small scale mines, artisanal mines, there's a sort of a shift happening where we're looking to regulate them better. The entire time that they've been in production, we always think that they're legal, that they're doing harsh environments, they're not doing things the right way, but it's about time that we're shifting to be able to recognize them because most of the large ore bodies have already been mined. And it's important to be able to see where these small scale miners can come into play. And that's kind of where we're seeing AI come into play. How do you convince a mining investor or a bank that funds mining if you think it's illegal or you think it's informal? We show traceability, chain of custody, the data lineage, and you just show and you give them the reporting standards, But that's one way that we see it. But you said something interesting about health and safety. How do you see, if we could dive a little bit into health and safety, are we looking more like imaging recognition from vehicles or being able to identify like downtime to be able to help with reduce the risk of the operation? Was that where you see the most value?
Oh, there's a number of things. You could plan for communications, so keeping people informed regularly, occasionally. One of the most important aspects of health and safety is communication.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, bi-directional communication. Supervisors or supervisors talking to the workforce. I believe AI could actually create a bunch of content that is more digestible, that is friendlier, and the like. I think image recognition is also an activity. So you could actually do machine learning, or sorry if I'm saying something wrong here, but by looking at different scenes of the operations, identify conditions that are not optimal. You could look at things like different risks, like electricity risk and ventilation and things like that. So again, it's not about discovering anything new in health and safety. It's about making it more systematic, less erratic, and eliminate human mistakes as much as you can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That on health and safety in particular. In terms of illegal miners or informal miners, I think we have to make that differentiation. A different thing is to being illegal or illicit, and the other thing is being informal, because we are living in these Andean countries where the mining is an ancestral activity. There is thousands of small miners, informal miners, and they're not necessarily illegal. Okay, they have the right to do it, but they should be helped because, as you said, occasionally they make harm to the environment. There is areas where there is, child labor and labor conditions that are not ideal. And I think in countries like Peru, IA, and other remote sensing activities will allow the government to have a better surveillance on these activities, and is needed, really.
It's difficult, no, because like a processing factory, that does novel metallurgical processes, it can cost a couple million, but these small scale miners, they have to go with the arsenic or the cyanide because it's so much cheaper, but they don't have another option, right? And then it spills into the land and it causes damage. But what is the solution there, right? How do they get that funding to be able to do the more sustainable practices if they can't prove to the investors that they're formal, right? Formal health and safety processes to be able to track the traceability and lineage. No, yeah, it's great. There's so many uses of AI that we could talk about. Please, if someone wanted to get in contact with you, someone wanted to get to know about your company more, what is a great way to be able to learn about you or communicate with you?
We're a public company, so we've got a website. We typically do webinars, presentations online. We attend conferences. We're the kind of company you can find our contact details on our website. There's my personal contact details. I reply to every single email we get. We connect with investors, with different organizations all the time. So we're being proactive on online presence despite our limited resources. But yes, anyone who wants to talk about mining, about Peru, about silver, feel free to reach out. We're very happy to talk to you, and thank you, Jorge, for the talk. We are very much willing to learn about AI, particularly in mining, and how to make our projects more productive, especially in remote areas.
It's important. It's something important as we said today in all sorts of aspects. So yeah, of course, we'll say thank you to you. Thank you to our audience. Thank you all. We'll see you in the next one, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Take care.
That's a good conclusion right there.